over a century, the world has been powered by a mysterious black liquid, but almost no one knows where it truly came from. How did one region, the Middle East, end up controlling more than half of the planet's known oil reserves? Is it pure luck, or something much older? Most people still believe oil comes from dead dinosaurs, but that is one of the biggest myths in science. The real story begins hundreds of millions of years ago, in a warm ancient ocean almost no one has heard of. Tiny microscopic creatures died and sank to the bottom, and over unimaginable time, they became the fuel that runs our entire modern world. But why did so much of this ancient life end up concentrated in one small part of the planet? The Middle East. Some still believe oil is not made from dead life at all, that it forms deep inside the earth and magically refills reservoirs. This is not just the story of oil. It is the story of ancient sunlight, buried for millions of years, that now controls our economy, our wars, and our future. So, where did all this oil really come from? And why is it sitting under the deserts of the Middle East? Join the Curiosity Atom family for more deep history and science documentaries. Now, let's begin the real origin of black gold. Despite popular cultural myths, oil does not come from the remains of dead dinosaurs. It actually forms from billions of microscopic marine organisms, specifically plankton and algae, that lived millions of years ago. These tiny organisms flourished in ancient, nutrient-rich surface waters. When they died, they drifted down to the ocean floor in a continuous process known to marine scientists as marine snow, accumulating in thick layers. For oil to form, these organic layers had to be buried quickly by heavy sediment. This rapid burial protected the organic matter from being eaten by scavengers or broken down by oxygen in the water. This process required anoxic conditions, meaning the environment was almost entirely depleted of oxygen. Without oxygen, the aerobic bacteria that typically cause decay could not survive to destroy the organic material. Over millions of years, additional layers of sand and silt accumulated on top of the organic mud. The sheer weight of these overlying layers created immense pressure, squeezing water out of the organic debris. As the organic matter is buried deeper into the Earth's crust, it undergoes a chemical transformation called diagenesis. At this stage, the biological remains turn into a solid, waxy substance called kerogen. Kerogen is the precursor to petroleum. It remains trapped within the source rock until the internal temperature of the Earth rises sufficiently to trigger the next stage of the chemical transition. The temperature must reach a specific range for the kerogen to break down into liquid hydrocarbons. This temperature range, typically between 60 and 120 degrees Celsius, is called the oil window. If the temperature stays within this window, the kerogen liquefies into crude oil. If the temperature exceeds 120 degrees, the molecules break down further, turning the liquid into natural gas. Once the oil is formed, it is under intense pressure. Because oil is less dense than water or rock, it begins to migrate upward through the tiny pores and cracks in the surrounding earth. The oil continues to move until it reaches a layer of reservoir rock. These rocks, such as sandstone or limestone, act like a hard sponge, containing millions of tiny interconnected pores that store the oil. To prevent the oil from reaching the surface and evaporating, it must be trapped. An impermeable layer of rock, called a cap rock, must sit above the reservoir to seal the oil underground. This complex biological and geological process takes tens of millions of years to complete. It is a slow, accidental alignment of biology, chemistry, and physics that occurs very rarely on a global scale. While this process happened in many places around the world, it occurred with extraordinary efficiency in one specific region. To understand why, we must look at a prehistoric sea that no longer exists. This ancient body of water was known as the Tethys Ocean. For over 200 million years, It provided the perfect environment to create the largest oil reserves in human history. Million years ago, a massive, warm body of water called the Tethys Sea sat exactly where the Middle East is today. Shallow, sun-drenched, and tropical, the Tethys Sea was the most efficient biological factory the planet has ever seen. Phytoplankton and algae thrived in unprecedented numbers. Nutrient upwellings fed immense biological blooms, turning the waters thick and green. This explosion of life created a staggering amount of death. Trillions of dead microscopic organisms constantly rained down into the deep basins. The seafloor contained deep, stagnant trenches. Cut off from ocean currents, these became permanent dead zones with zero oxygen. Without oxygen, decay bacteria couldn't survive. For over 100 million years, this biological rain piled up into organic sludge hundreds of feet thick. Sitting directly on the equator, the Tethys maximized solar energy, fueling the highest carbon capture rates in Earth's history. Meanwhile, prehistoric rivers dumped millions of tons of sand and silt, rapidly burying the organic sludge before it could be disturbed. The future Arabian Peninsula sat perfectly at the bottom. It acted as a giant drain, gathering the richest biological material on Earth. Around 50 million years ago, tectonic plates shifted violently. Africa and Arabia pushed northward, crushing and closing the Tethys Sea forever. The ocean vanished, but its vast, heavy layers of biological mud were securely entombed deep within the Earth's crust. Under the crushing weight of new continents, temperatures spiked. The Arabian Plate became a geological pressure cooker, roasting the ancient sea life. The mud transformed into dark, dense shale. Stretching beneath Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Iraq, it is the most carbon-rich source rock ever discovered. No other region experienced this exact combination. Extreme biological growth, zero deep water oxygen, and perfect geological burial on such an astronomical scale. The biological factory was complete. But having oil is only half the equation. The shifting geology was about to build the perfect trap. Not everyone believes oil comes from ancient life. A persistent alternative is the abiogenic or abiotic theory. Popularized by Russian and Ukrainian scientists during the Cold War, this theory claims oil is a primordial, non-biological liquid. They argued that extreme heat and pressure deep within the Earth's mantle forged hydrocarbons from raw carbon without any dead organisms. This led to the popular internet myth that oil is a renewable resource, constantly welling up to refill empty reservoirs. When we test crude oil, we find biomarkers. These are complex molecular fossils that can only be created by living plants and bacteria. We also measure carbon isotopes. Biological life strongly prefers absorbing the lighter carbon-12 atom. Crude oil is packed with it. Small amounts of abiotic methane do form near deep ocean volcanic vents. But we never find complex, heavy crude oil there. The massive reserves in the Middle East aren't a limitless fountain. They are the finite, irreplaceable graveyard of the Tethys Sea. The Middle East holds over half the world's proven oil reserves. Why here? It isn't magic. It is a massive geological accident requiring 5 perfect conditions. First, the source. The ancient Tethys Sea left an unimaginably huge biological graveyard. For millions of years, the Arabian Plate was a quiet, stable continental margin. This long stability allowed incredibly thick, undisturbed layers of organic rock to form. Second, the reservoir. Above this shale sits highly porous limestone and sandstone. These rocks act as perfect geological sponges, holding oceans of oil within microscopic pores. Third, the ultimate seal. Massive evaporation of the ancient sea left thick salt layers. This salt and clay formed a flawless, impermeable caprock over the entire region. But the true magic is the fourth factor, a slow, violent tectonic collision. This crash buckled the Earth's crust, folding flat rock layers into massive arches. Geologists call these folds anticlines. They are the ultimate structural oil traps. Fifth, the tectonic collision created the massive Persian Gulf foreland basin. This deep depression acts like a massive funnel, draining oil from a vast area. Any one of these 5 geological features is common around the world, but finding all 5 perfectly stacked together at this scale is exceptionally rare. Other regions had tectonic collisions that were simply too violent. Their oil leaked to the surface and evaporated into the atmosphere millions of years ago. But the Middle East's tectonic shift was gentle enough to fold the rock without breaking the seal. The perfect source rock, the perfect sponge, and the perfect seal, stacked perfectly into the ultimate unbroken structural trap. That rare combination is the absolute reality behind the region's unimaginable wealth. It is not infinite. It is simply the largest geological bank vault on Earth. We have built our entire modern world on the graveyard of the Tethys Sea. But this ancient battery is finite, and we are burning through it incredibly fast. So, knowing its true, fragile, and irreplaceable origin, how should we use or move beyond this black gold? Let me know below, and subscribe to Curiosity Atom.